honestly.
Here's my standing ovation, but they're already standing, except for you. Okay, thank you. Okay, Josh, over to you.
So with my hoarse voice, I will try to say it in summary. So there's two objectives that you want to look at. One is, if there is the ability to prevent these affordable, relatively affordable buildings from being demolished, there needs to be substantive arguments that the planner will accept for why they should remain and why they should write a negative report to reject the application. That's something that you'd want to work with your councillor and the local planner on. I would engage your local councillor. Speak with her about what her game plan is and make sure that you ask, can you be at the table? Like, whether it be discussing things with the developer, whether it be working with the planner. You want the planner ultimately to take a position that's friendly to you. Because whether it be at council or if it ends up at the tribunal, that testimony will mean a lot, whether it be at council or at the tribunal. So you want the planner obviously to see your position based on evidence. You also want to make sure that this doesn't just quickly go through, because then it's done. You also don't want a scenario where they just walk over to the tribunal, because then we at the city lose all control over what's going to happen. We want to make sure, especially with the threat that Section 111 of the City of Toronto Act, with the threat of regulations changing, that removes the powers that I discussed with you earlier, that protects tenants when their building is demolished, to cover your costs for moving, cover your costs during the construction period, and to ensure that you have the ability to move back into a building at a similar rent that you're paying today. Then we want to make sure that we control the process, right? If you arrive at a reality that there is going to be a demolition, then you want to be able to ensure that that is negotiated well on your behalf, that you meet with the housing planner earlier than later in the process, and that you also include some of the landscape issues, the flooding issues, the things that you've discussed with me as part of any package that's written down, signed, and approved. You want things to get into a bylaw. You want things to be approved formally. And then you want follow-up to make sure that the developer upholds the agreement that's approved. One way or another, when you feel out of control in your life, the more actual control you have over your own destiny, the better. One way or another, you should be able to stay in the homes you have or return as a community, those who want to, into maybe even improved building itself that you can afford. And you shouldn't have to wait those 2 years during the construction or however long it takes, looking for a place to live that is far outside of your community or one that you can't afford. So I would also want, if you do need to move, even for a temporary period of time, for the developer to agree in writing that you move somewhere nearby at a similar rent, that they cover those costs. I know people, for example, I don't know if any of you are in this position, but if you've got a kid who goes to the local school, you can't move out of the area, right? Your kid is in the local catchment area. If you're a senior or anybody else, you can feel really isolated if you're removed from the only neighborhood and community that you know. So I think it's really important that you demand that. And ultimately, you're looking at those two paths, and then you're going to know what the reality is as steps move forward. I would work with the local residents in the neighborhood to discuss whether or not you should team up and be a party at the tribunal if it goes there. And the reason for that is because you might want to be a party there so that you have a say over any potential settlement that's arrived at, and that you have a formal voice at the table through those negotiations. It hasn't gone there yet, but I'm just saying, thinking ahead, if it goes there, you want to be prepared to advocate for your own interests, especially if the city's interests veers from where you are.
It's approved.
Yeah.
Then do we have any input?
You mean to mitigate the
30
magnitude of
instead
it?
of 30.
So, that's part of why the meeting is happening on Tuesday, right? For the community to have a say again, I would encourage you to focus on what builds a community, right? It's not just buildings. It's about affordability. It's about school capacity. It's about infrastructure. It's about park space. It's about green space that doesn't turn into a pool, right? It's about a quality of life for those of you who live here today. And yes, people who move here into new buildings, wherever they're built. But it can't be just about the developer's interest. It's got to be a holistic approach. And the city needs to be able to demonstrate that they've considered that before they approve it. That's the approach that I'm advocating for. And ultimately on Tuesday, the more of you who express your voice, again, my recommendation is, even if you feel emotional, try to just say it as a matter of fact, because they'll hear you better. And rather than just going on the attack, be strategic about the questions that you want to answer, because this is a good chance for the applicant and the planner to be on the record as to what is their plan, why didn't they notify people, are they going to work with you, will there be a working group, for example, like that's another option. Like your councillor, if she chooses to, working with you, could get you and the local neighborhood association and any other stakeholders literally at a table to work with the applicant and the planner. If they want to, they could even invite other relevant staff, forestry to deal with the trees. They can invite the school board to be involved as far as the local schools. And then you could actually have a more thoughtful conversation, aside from being at a big meeting, right? Where it's not just speeches, but you can actually talk about the needs of the community and how whatever is built, if it is built, really supports a great quality of life. And I just don't accept that it should be either or. Like, it doesn't have to be. So the first step is meet with Amber, and just say that you want to be a partner. And I have no reason to believe that she wouldn't want to do that with you.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Joss. Thank you.